batshit because we are batshit about The Bachelor. This is the season finale episode. I am Kristen.
And I'm Reid.
All right, so Reid, what are we drinking today?
Yeah, so we finally brought back the cocktail hour after, I guess, a very long time of 2 weeks. But today we've got a Graham Beck rosé because it's the final rosé. And from the bottle and my own taste a little bit, it said there's explosion of raspberry, which I can kind of see a little bit. And it is a bit different than like normal types of sparkling wines, but I think it's pretty good. What do you think about it?
Yes, delicious. Love it. And tell us a little bit about your wine journey in life and why you chose this specifically for this event.
Oh, my wine journey. Okay, yeah, it's my journey to find love too, I guess. Yeah, I think what she's getting at is I did take a sommelier class I guess 2 months ago at this point, but I'm still waiting to get the test results back, so I'm not confirmed at this moment. But yeah, that's kind of what my inspiration to do this whole cocktail party thing was, this segment on the show. Yeah, and so really my whole journey with doing that was my sister brought it up once, and I was like, oh, that sounds kind of fun. And then because she lives in a different state than we do, and as I was sitting on the plane coming back, the guy next to me was reading this Wines of the World book or something. I was looking at it, and I'm just like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. So, yeah, that's why I decided to do it. And so I have potentially some amount of credentials. We'll see, I guess.
No, this is awesome. This is great.
But I mainly picked it for the lame joke, the final rosé. But and also because the champagne's the Bachelor thing, right, and whatnot.
Yeah.
And as I was just kind of browsing through the section at the store, this one looks kind of exciting to me, and I like the sound of raspberry, so I just picked it for that.
Yeah. So join us on our cocktail hour, everyone.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers. So enough about me. We can get into I guess the actual meat of the show. So it was 3 hours long. It's quite a long time.
Woo-wee. Yeah. I thought it was going to be an hour of the episode and then an hour of interviews. And then when there's 2 hours of the episode, then I thought, oh, they're definitely going to do another hour of interviews, for after the final rose. And so I thought, oh, we're going to be up until 10 p.m. And indeed, that's what happened.
Yeah, Kristen had a watch party that I was at, the exclusive Batshit watch party. And yeah, a few of the people left once it hit 9. There was all right, I'm done. Because right when it hit 9, that's when they the whole the actual show was over and whatnot. But
yeah,
and spoiler alert, Miss Kelsey A was the winner.
Yes.
And then they also later revealed that Jen was the Bachelorette, but we'll get into that in a little bit, as I know Kristen had some feelings about that.
Yeah. Okay, so kind of the episode breakdown. So we're in Tulum still.
At the resort you went to.
At the resort that I went to, yes. Yeah, my friend got married there in October, so that is crazy. It's so funny to look and be like, I saw that swing. I saw that restaurant, whatever.
You're probably in the exact same room as them.
I was indeed. I was sitting on the same patio writing in my journal just as they were.
And you jammed a note on the door too that says we need to talk.
I did. Yeah. They got that idea from me. So, all right. So we're in Tulum. So Daisy meets the parents first. And, it seems to go well.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of felt like both of the family parts of the date didn't really, there really wasn't a whole ton to say. They just kind of met them and they're like, yeah, she's a great girl. And that was pretty much it. I don't really think a whole ton happened, honestly. Maybe I wasn't paying attention. I don't know, but.
Well, what I think was funny is I thought they met them on 2 separate days. But as pointed out at the party, they were like, oh no, Daisy just left and Kelsey's pulling up because they're wearing the same clothes. It's the same day. I mean, so I don't know if they've done that in the past and I just have never noticed or what.
Well, I definitely think I've been analyzing a little bit more, or it's my mother saying, oh yeah, Joey gave Daisy his jacket or whatever. But
yeah,
I didn't notice that until the person at the party said that. And I was like, oh yeah, that's, so he's got a double adder here.
Yeah.
And
so being back to back. So, I mean, I feel like that would be even more nerve wracking for the family and for the girls.
Do you think they know?
I mean, my thought is if Kelsey, they were like, hey, you need to show up at 1 p.m., right? I'd be like, I'm definitely the second one, right?
Do you really think The Bachelor is going to be starting at 1 p.m.?
Well, I'm saying, let's say Daisy came at like 10 a.m.
Yeah.
or something like that. And then if I was Kelsey and they said, oh, show up at 1 p.m., then I would know that I'm the second one.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. We'd have to get out to like look at the camera, see what's the angle of the sun, and we can figure out like.
Oh, that's true. Or they could edit it. Maybe Kelsey A met him first, and they edited it weird. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't think so. I feel like she was second, but
yeah,
but they definitely were the same day for sure.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and it was interesting because I even feel like during when the mom talked to Daisy. She said, I just really want you to be happy, and I just really want, she said, I really want you to be happy. And I found that interesting because what I'm wondering is if Joey kind of already gave him the lowdown, like, hey, it's Kelsey. Because I felt like it was odd that his mom said that.
Yeah, I think that was the beginning of the end for Daisy, and I think she... And, that was the huge, shocking revelation was that apparently she was the first person in 28 seasons who was aware enough to be like, it's not me. So, like,
right.
that was the first thing that ever happened in this season. So, like, honestly, good for her, I guess. But,
yeah.
And, as we'll get into it more, there's more and more things that he said or just were happening. And you're just like, oh,
yeah,
that's rough, girl. It doesn't look like you're the winner. And, unlike normal when you're screaming at the television, just saying, it's like, why don't you see this?
Right.
This time she did.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I'm thinking like, because of what she's been through with like getting sick and her cochlear implant, I feel like she's very confident. She's very sure of herself. She's very, that's a hard thing to go through. And I'm sure when you go through something like that, you have a lot of respect for yourself and you know a lot about yourself, you spend a lot of time in your head, I'm sure, when you're kind of just sitting there like sick, and that could be a healthy place or a not healthy place. But I think for Daisy, she is very mentally strong. And I think we've seen that throughout the entire season because, we watch Jess, we watch Maria, these really strong women kind of break down. And we're halfway through the season, we're not even at the end at this point. And these girls are already kind of like losing their minds, right? And I think producers have a lot to do with that too, right? Producers are pressuring them with questions. They're probably internally feeling a lot of pressure, in the atmosphere. But I feel like throughout the entire season, Daisy had a level head. She was very, very mentally stable. And even at the end, when she was, doubting it, she was still stable. She was like, hey, I don't think it's me, I'm sad. But she wasn't like, I'm losing my mind. Like, I have to leave. I can't be here.
It kind of
being reactive,
Honestly, it kind of shocked me because she was just like, yeah, I'm upset about it. But then just kind of like left and like didn't have the cry cam, which is pretty normal. And she seemed like, I was just watching her. I'm just like, who are you?
Yeah.
Like, how are you handling this so well? I mean, like, maybe it wasn't that big of a deal to her. I don't know. But, like, just she went through that with, like, really no problems, honestly. And it was kind of, like, it's like, all right. Like, maybe I can take some notes from her, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, not just Joey, but from Daisy Days as well.
Daisy Days. We love that. So, yeah. So, they met the parents. Nothing really extravagant there. Then they have their one-on-one date. So Daisy has the one-on-one date. She does kind of this spiritual awakening date.
Yeah, a classic on The Bachelor.
She does kind of struggle on that date because she's like, there's so much I need to say. And this is our last date. And we're kind of spending time meditating, I would say, which is not, the best atmosphere to be in when you're trying to like pour your heart out. And it kind of seemed like she was going to give up hope. But then for the dinner portion, she's like, you know what? I'm going to act like it's me. I'm going to go in. I'm going to be confident. I'm going to be myself. I'm going to say everything I need to say. So mad respect for that. She goes on the date, has this super extreme confidence, thinking it's her, and she probably had to build herself up mentally for that. And then what happens?
Well, oh yeah, what happens is he's just like, I just want you to be happy. And like, ooh. And I think, I think she already knew that it wasn't her beforehand based on some of the other things he said, but I think she like somehow managed to hype herself up and lie to herself. Just like, okay, I gotta, just do what I gotta do to get through this and do what I need to do. And it's like, there's respect for that. As I remember commenting, I'm like, oh no, she's going back into pretending that this is going to happen for her. But I think it was just so she could say what she wanted and didn't, regret anything, because that definitely happened with Maria. Like Maria was in her head the whole time, and so then she regretted that for sure. I know Maria did, but yeah, Joey's just like, I just want you to be happy, and it was all like you language. It wasn't like us,
Right?
And it definitely back to back. Obviously, Daisy didn't see this until then, presumably anyway, but. Then back to back with Kelsey, where he's using like we language, then like, okay, that's pretty obvious who he's going to pick. And I was saying like a week or two ago that I think it's her. He likes her the most.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think you can tell, just in their interactions for sure. How would you have reacted if you were on the show and you were like, it's not me?
A lot more
in the date versus the dinner portion. Right. So how Daisy handled it versus how you would handle it.
Well, in the date, I mean, I feel like you're putting me in the hot seat here, but with the couch, I feel like the date I probably could have rallied through, but the dinner portion, it definitely would have probably fared a lot worse than her, because just watching that whole thing was like really cringe to watch, because I just like some of the things they were doing and like how they were embracing and stuff. I'm like, oh, she knows this is done, and she like has to like do this kind of, but doesn't want to really like take it anywhere. And it just was, it was the type of stuff you do with somebody that you're like breaking up with, but you're not really that mad at them.
It was hard to hear her say, I'm going to go into tonight and be confident, and then listen to him say, I want you to be happy, and kind of hint, it's not you, it's not you, it's not you. Just, yeah, and then just dagger to the heart over and over.
And like how they kissed goodbye and how she hugged him and stuff, just like did not look good. Her you could tell she was just like dreading it.
Yeah.
And then especially when you watch Kelsey afterwards, how they're leaving, and just it's a completely different story.
Completely different.
Like she was all in, and she knew like she was totally in for it and whatnot. So there's just like a big difference.
Yeah. So tell us about Kelsey A's one-on-one.
Well, I commented to you last night, and normally Chris and I don't watch together, but there was a viewing party, so we were watching with some other people. But Kelsey obviously had the better date out of the two, because they had the like sexy massage date or whatever, and that was getting a little interesting to say, or maybe it's just the camera angles. They got the same guy who was filming Daisy's ass earlier, and it's like, okay, now like you're done with Daisy. We're going to be filming Kelsey in weird angles now.
Yep.
And so they had that, and honestly, just like everything was fine. Like it just seemed like Joey was all in. He wasn't concerned. He wasn't complaining about like, I don't know if somebody's going to be dumping me or whatnot.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because I feel like throughout the entire season, him and Kelsey A have been very strong. And I don't think Kelsey A has given him any doubt. And so it's interesting that he has felt kind of insecure this whole season, especially now knowing he chose Kelsey A, right? Because where was this insecurity coming from when I feel like she didn't do anything to create the insecurity?
Well, she definitely did last episode.
Well, yeah, I guess that's true.
But that turned on its face pretty quickly when she was like, I just thought you would like it. And it was like, no, he didn't like it. He hated it a lot. Because he would have been shattered if she dumped him.
Yeah.
Because I feel like in The Bachelor, normally they like the person who challenges them the least, which is Kelsey in this case. And also normally that's not always the person that I would look at and be like, yeah, that's the person they should be with. But in this case, I feel like he picked the right person out of the group.
Yeah, and I feel like usually after the finale, you kind of see the couple and you're like, oh, I wish them the best and all that. But I actually see them like really being a solid relationship.
I think it'll work out.
For sure.
I think they got the same vibes and stuff, and they're just kind of like little goofy goobers together, I guess.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
good for them.
They have a spa date, they have a dinner date, and yeah, he's very flirtatious, very fun, very carefree. We language. I mean, everything is really positive. I think Kelsey A gets in her head a little bit and has a conversation, about, hey, there's somebody else here and Daisy's amazing. And, but I don't think they focus that much on that. And then it is proposal day. And wow. So when they show, so much to break down here. First of all, I thought Daisy was going to say, hey, I know it's not me and I'm leaving and I'm not even going to go to the rose ceremony. Right. Then I thought, oh, she's going to knock on Joey's door and break up with him.
Yeah.
Right. And neither of those things happened. She knocks on the door and bam, who answers the door?
It's Kelsey. Yeah. That was probably the most surprising thing.
My jaw literally dropped, like shocked. So they have a conversation. What does that look like?
Honestly, it was just like kind of conciliatory. I feel like Kelsey knew. She's just like, yeah, I'm winning this thing. And like,
you think? Do you think she was like, what do you think Kelsey's thought was? First thought.
Well, she's probably like, uh-oh. Does Daisy know something I don't know? I would guess, right? At first. And then once Daisy started talking, she's like, yeah, I know it's not me. And then I think Kelsey knew. Like, it was just kind of obvious at that point.
So you think Kelsey didn't take it as a threat or anything? She just was like, Daisy's coming. Daisy's like, hey, did you get reassurance? And she's like, yeah, I did.
At that point, you got it in the bag. So, I got a reassurance and she didn't. You don't know what the other person's getting, but once they tell you straight up, and there's no reason for Daisy to be like, yeah, I didn't get any reassurance.
Right.
Just to, like, rub it in her face or something later if she wins. Mm-hmm. So, I think she knew she had it in the bag at that point. And I guess they're way closer friends than they made it look like. I obviously didn't think they, like, hated each other, but it seems like they were very good friends. I doubt they're really hanging out or talking that much now.
Right. Yeah, I know. Well, and they kept showing Rachel in the audience, like Rachel's reaction, and I feel like Rachel and Daisy are, I'm sure Rachel's close with both of them, but, I feel like when they showed Rachel, just her face was like devastated when they showed Daisy, and when they showed Daisy talking to Kelsey and kind of all the date with Daisy. Everything, you could just tell Rachel's heart was like broken.
Well, Rachel probably knew.
Absolutely. I think Rachel absolutely knew.
She was only like 2 days not up to date with this whole thing.
Right.
So like, she had a 50-50 guess at worst.
Right.
And she probably could tell at that point.
And I'm sure they've talked after the show and hung out after the show.
Yeah.
I would think.
I would assume that she's probably better friends with Daisy than Kelsey is at this point.
Yeah.
Because like, are you going to, they asked Joey to like, hey, have you talked to Daisy since then? And he says no. And I believe him in this case, because I know a lot of times on reality TV, they're like, oh no, I definitely didn't. And it's just like, no, you totally did, bro. Like, looking at that last season of Love is Blind, where it's just like, oh yeah, we just stood and talked for like 8 hours. I'm sure. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
At 3 a.m. But in this case, I kind of believe him. They didn't really get into any of the details about like, where you guys living or anything like that. Normally they do.
Yeah, no, that is definitely true. And yeah, they kind of didn't do that. So with, Daisy going to Kelsey's room, them talking, them kind of having that friendship moment, them being in the car together.
That was surprising.
Also shocking. And, Daisy, of course, getting out of the car first, right?
Well, we knew she lost at the point. She did too.
And knowing and, and so Daisy's exit. All right. So Daisy getting out of the limo, knowing she's going to be rejected, kind of leading that conversation. Joey she kind of says, hey, I know it's not me. Joey reacts with, a lot of emotions. He's crying. And, him saying, I need to walk you out, and her saying, nope, I'm going to do this on my own. What's your thought of, Daisy as a whole and that situation as a whole?
I mean, good for her, honestly. Like, a lot of times people walk out and they say something, and on the show, and they'll always ask them, like, well, you said X. How do you feel about that? Mm-hmm. In this case, what she said, I think was really good. It wasn't one of those things where you walk out just like, I'm going to regret that. Because they're going to glom on to whatever they can. And I don't know. I think she looked really good, and she looked really powerful. She's probably been my favorite the whole time, but I like her a lot more than I did before. I mean, Daisy, if you're watching, just hit me up.
Her DMs are open, I'm sure.
Yeah, she can slide into my DMs if she wants, but she's probably not watching. He's like, I'll move out to Minnesota for you, Daisy.
There you go.
But anyway, I don't know. I think she looked really good, honestly, and that's one of the things I was going to say later today. Anyway, is this season, and this sounds so cliche and dumb, like, this, because they always say this is the most dramatic season. Yeah, they didn't say that this time.
Right. They focus very much on this has never happened before. This has never happened before.
Which was kind of a letdown, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, it was true, but yeah, you're right. I mean,
like, good for her. Like, totally good for her. I am all in on her doing that and walking herself out. I don't think it was like rude or anything. It was just like, I think I need to do it myself. And like,
yeah,
it's like, go for it.
Yeah.
When you feel differently.
No, I completely agree. I think good for her for doing it on her own. She said what she needed to say. She didn't need anything more from him. And really, she took charge of the situation. I mean, she really didn't need anything from him in general. She led the conversation saying, hey, I know it's not me. I'm sure he felt terrible having to reject her. He was probably relieved that he didn't have to go through this whole breakup conversation and blindside her, right? He probably, I think, their date prior was trying to say like, hey, it's kind of like not you. And I kind of want to like, ease the blow a little bit. And then so that when the conversation did happen, it wouldn't be like she would be completely blindsided. I think Joey seems like a very kind person. So I feel like for him, to let's compare it to a situation like Jess, right? Where I think he did totally catch Jess off guard.
Yeah, but she was like top 10.
And she was top 10, right?
Doesn't really
but
matter that
that
much.
being said, now if we're at the final, right? If we're at the last girl and he had to have that same conversation and blindside someone,
yeah, that's rough.
That would be heartbreaking for him, right? Whereas I think other bachelors in the past, controversial comment, I don't know if they've been as emotionally intelligent as Joey has. And if you want to argue with me on that, I would be happy to discuss that with you. But because he is so emotionally intelligent, I think he really would have a hard time completely blindsiding someone at the end. So it was good that he had Daisy, who is very self-aware, and who did lead the conversation saying, you don't have to reject me. I already know that I'm going to be rejected. But I'm sure his heart just broke into a million pieces because I think rejecting anyone is going to just break his heart.
Yeah, and I mean, she kind of implied it even before that. She was like, it's been fun getting to, fall in love with you and whatever. And it's like, ooh, okay. But yeah, and that's kind of what I was implying too beforehand, is just like him and this season are very different than the other ones because I kind of have like a decent amount of respect for him. And normally the people just like, I mean, he's like implying that, maybe he'll get rejected. And normally they don't do that. And, one of my friends.
It's kind of like being the Bachelor's kryptonite, right?
Yeah.
Like nothing can kill me.
Yeah, and like one of my friends, she told me that she was telling her boyfriend all about this, and he's like, like not everybody's like that. I'm just like, that's true. The thing is, like, he's not. I don't know. He just doesn't feel like the other bachelors I've seen. Really, like, seems more like aware of what's going on and cares more about these people than normal, which is like kind of bothers me, like deep down in my soul. That I'm like, yeah, he seems like a nice guy. Like on like reality TV, but that is kind of how I feel. And yeah, so she knew and she left. Good for her.
Right. And then she goes up to Kelsey and says, I get to be happy for my friend. I get to be happy for this person, you know, and she kind of takes herself emotionally out of the situation, which would be super hard to do, right? You fall in love with this person. You want to be engaged to this person, and you have to accept that that's not going to happen. And then on top of that, she has the emotional intelligence and confidence and ability to say, I'm happy for you. You guys are in love, and I'm going to be selfless in this moment.
I don't know how she did it. I couldn't have done it.
I mean, that's amazing. Oh my gosh. That's absolutely. And I feel like she was genuinely happy for them.
Yeah.
Genuinely happy for them the day of the finale and the day of after the final rose as well, you know?
Yeah, I don't know how she did it, honestly, because it's like, I couldn't have done it. I mean, I definitely wouldn't have been like rude or anything, but I couldn't just like, I can't take it. I can't look at you when you're, you know, you've gotten the person I was looking for.
Yeah.
Especially like immediately after the fact, but maybe she had been sitting there for 3 days with nothing to do, just knowing that this is going to happen. So
yeah, and kind of like taking time to break down the steps of, you know, I'm going to like mourn my own sadness, right? Like my own breakup, and then I'm going to evolve, but still within a 3-day period.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, that's a lot of revolutions going on. So Kelsey goes down there, she gets engaged, she's, you know, she's happy, she's excited, that's great. So, you know, kind of fast forward to, you know, the after the final rose with the interviews. You know, Kelsey and Daisy sit down together, and Kelsey, you know, and they're holding hands and they're friends, and, you know, I'm sure there's a sense of support for each other that I think is genuine. But do you think that anything about this situation is making Kelsey feel insecure? And what I mean by that is insecure in the sense of Bachelor Nation may be focusing more on Daisy's journey and Daisy saying no versus being happy for Joey and Kelsey, right? So being happy for Joey and Kelsey and having that, you know, proposal, that's in the shadows.
You know, I hadn't considered that. And like, probably honestly, now that you say that, but I don't know. Kelsey's never really like brought any of that stuff up ever. Like her being concerned about being, you know, second choice or whatever, except, and that's why they put her with Leslie, obviously. Like, they're like, we got to bring this girl down a little bit because she knows she's the best one for him. So we got to put a lot of doubt in her mind.
Yeah.
Maybe, honestly, but I don't know. They didn't really spend a whole ton of time on those types of like fan-based things this season really at all.
Right. Or even I'm just wondering how Kelsey's feeling in general. Like, I feel like she got engaged, and I think, in my opinion, like, I am very happy for them. But when I think about the episode, the first thing that comes to my mind is, you know, Daisy standing up for herself. Daisy, you know, being like this strong woman, and Daisy's journey, right? That's what I think of right away.
We can take him down there and put up a Daisy, just Photoshop her on there. Kind of was, especially this last episode was hers. It was, I mean, it'd be Maria up until like 2 episodes ago. And
True.
This episode was Daisy.
Right. Or do you think that Kelsey is feeling insecure at all? I mean, Joey said he hasn't talked to Daisy, and I understand that. Do you think that they live in a world where, you know, they can all like be friends? Or do you think Kelsey, there is like a sense of insecurity there because Daisy was the runner-up?
I mean, I'm sure they're all like, you know, cordial and friendly together. Obviously, they still liked each other. I mean, Kelsey spent more time with Daisy than she did with Joey.
Right, yeah.
Like a significant, I mean, I'm sure they were sitting around all the time doing nothing.
Yeah, spending time together. True.
So, but at the end of the day, I just don't know how you can easily, like, let's say you're Joey, for example, like, hey, I'm going to go hang out with your ex. That's great. Like, that's kind of weird, right?
Right.
Or,
right.
Or, like, what you can do is, like, hey, Daisy, you want to come to Joey and I's house? Like, no, I don't think it's going to work out at this point. Like, they can be friendly, but I think that's just the end of it.
Yeah.
I don't see how it's going to work out in either part. What is he going to invite her over? Like, Daisy? Yeah, like, no way.
Right.
And Kelsey's not going to invite her over because that's like super weird.
Yeah, there's a line.
And if they're texting a lot, like, I mean, imagine if you're talking with your friends, right? Like, are you going to just be like, I have this, minor problem. You're not going to like say to Daisy as Kelsey, like, Joey had this problem. Daisy's just like, yeah, I know.
Right.
Like I dated him too.
Right. It's
just, I just don't see how it would work out.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So they sit down with Daisy. Daisy kind of says the same thing. She's happy for them. All that. They sit down with Joey and Kelsey A. They're very happy and excited. There's kind of this joke that maybe Kelsey A's dad will be the next Golden Bachelor, but who knows? This is just.
I mean, I took a look at him when you said that because I heard you, and I like took a look at him and was like, "Damn, bro, like you're looking pretty good." And
he's a good-looking older guy, so I mean, I'm thinking when they want Golden Bachelor, they want like 70.
He doesn't look old enough. He looks like he's maybe 60.
I feel like he
might still be working. Like he's not old enough to be on. Like he's definitely not eligible for Medicaid.
Right, we're like, what's the Golden Bachelor age limit here?
Got to be eligible for Medicaid or Medicare. I'm sorry, I can't remember which one it is. But I have to jump back just for a second. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up because I hate to say this, like it kills me inside, but because they brought up Daisy's line, right? Like this is her final line that she was going out with.
Yeah.
And most of the time for people, it just looks bad on them. But she's like, if I was this in love with him and, he didn't love me.
And he wasn't the right person.
How would it be if that person did love me?
Well, I think it was, if I can love the wrong person this much,
right.
Imagine how much I can love the right person.
Yeah. And like, and it's stupid because Jesse was like, it's actually funny. The person who films this name is also Jesse, but
yeah, it's true. Shout out to Jesse.
But he's just like, that really stuck with us. And like normally when they say those things, I'm just like, whatever. Like who cares? But this time around, I was just like, yeah, it did. Mm-hmm. Like I don't know, it really did stick with me quite a bit.
And I think that's a perfect segue into the Bachelorette conversation. So throughout the entire season, we've been Daisy for Bachelorette, right? And still to this day, Daisy for Bachelorette. And, she went through a really hard journey. She was still rejected. She was still very hurt. She has a right to take her time, and heal. And so, I thought they were kind of hinting at maybe she was going to be the Bachelorette. But, they flat out asked her and she said she wasn't ready, which we understand. But I think overall in this show, we've been, a fan of her being the Bachelorette since day one. And I think the only thing that I'm concerned about is, we're going to have a different Bachelorette, which we'll dive into in just a second. But the next season of The Bachelorette, after this season, I'm wondering if there will be someone on the next season of The Bachelor that would take that spot, instead of Daisy. That being said, maybe Daisy never wants it, and if Daisy never wants it, then I don't want to put her in a position where, not that I personally could, but put her in a position where like she would do something she doesn't want to do. But I can strongly say that I feel like America as a whole would love to see her as the Bachelorette. But I think if we wait a whole season, which we're going to minimum, that power that she has right now is gonna, not be as bright as it is, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so I got a few thoughts about that. Like, it's like, why would they bring her out? They already knew that the answer was no. Mm-hmm. Like, there's no way they didn't. Like, there's no way that was the first time they asked, just like Jesse being like, oh, you want to join? And like, obviously she had been asked that before. So, and they only showed us that because I think they wanted to show like, yes, we know this was our first choice and this was also your first choice. But she told us to get lost. Mm-hmm. And like, more power to her, honestly. And I said this like way back when, because I said she had big runner-up energy. I think I might have even said that like the first episode, but it's just like I kind of prefer just having her story end here than having her go through anything more. Because, like, definitely at this point, I think she's, like, too good to be on Bachelor in Paradise.
1,000%. 1,000%. And listen, I love Bachelor in Paradise, which we can talk about in a little bit, but not the show for her.
No, I mean, just how she walked out and stuff, I don't know. I mean, Bachelor in Paradise is really silly, which I kind of appreciate, honestly.
Right. It's good to have a series like Bachelor, Bachelorette, where it's like, you know, and it's good to have Paradise to be fun and silly. And I'm sure Daisy has a fun and silly side. But that being said, I would rather see her in this empowering role than kind of like a, you know, silly role.
Well, I normally prefer Bachelor in Paradise because they throw out all the serious stuff out the window. Because most of the time, like, I watch the show and I'm just like, this isn't serious at all.
Right.
Like, I just don't see it. I'm like, no, who cares? Like, I just go through all that stuff. And, like, I felt different this time, which I feel really cringe saying, but
Yeah.
but because normally, I mean, they throw it out they just stop pretending, right? Mm-hmm. And they're like, okay, this is just how it is.
Yeah.
But this time it kind of felt different to me. And so for her, where it felt kind of more genuine to me, throwing it out the window would be kind of a shame. So, and her going in as Bachelorette, it's just like, I don't know. I think it was a good story for her just to end right there and just be like, yeah, I'm walking out doing my own thing. I don't need this show.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to go, you know, do whatever.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Oh, good for her. What do you think is next for her? They didn't really dive into it.
Yeah, I think she's probably going to be I mean, like, what do all the people do when they are successful in the show to be social media influencer?
Okay.
And I mean, I know she's got the nonprofit for, you know, other people that have, you know, various issues, whether I can't remember if it was specifically for things such as herself or issues such as the one she has or otherwise. But I mean, I saw her Instagram like a few months ago. It's like 360,000 followers. Like, she's there.
Okay. So and I'm sure now it's skyrocketed, especially because of her exit, right? So, I mean, do you think, so you think she's going to focus kind of more on like her nonprofit and promoting her business and, you know, influencing versus a clothing line or kind of doing anything else with the Bachelor franchise? Or do you think that she'll come back to the Bachelor franchise?
I'm going to say no. That's my take.
Okay.
But I mean, like, with any of these people are popular, I don't think they're going to go back to their, like, do you really think Maria's going to go back to being an executive assistant?
Well,
like, probably not.
Oh, I can tell you what Maria's doing. I can see totally Maria like having a whole workout line, like clothing, or just clothing line in general with just boobs out. That's going to be
I mean,
her.
she's kind of shredded, so like
which I support.
Yeah, like,
no,
good
I mean,
for her.
but
Like,
I think
I'm not
she's
that shredded.
I can see her promoting some kind of like clothing business or workout business that she has in mind. Okay, I mean, you know, I kind of agree. I think for me, she, I mean, of course, I want her to be the Bachelorette right now, but I also think that being said, now, you know, they're shifting in another direction because she's not ready, and I think that once we go through Bachelorette, Bachelor in Paradise, Golden Bachelor, Golden Bachelorette, et cetera, and the next Bachelorette season comes, right? Like a year from now, or maybe even 2 years from now, I can see her kind of being settled into her nonprofit business and not really wanting to go back to the Bachelor franchise.
I mean, they could pull like an Ari, right? Like,
right.
They're just like, they got her in their back pocket, and like, then like everybody likes her. Mm-hmm. And when they have a season where, you know, there's nobody that they think is too great, then they just like, hey, they slide into Daisy's DMs and ask her to do it. I mean, she's only like 26 or something, so they could ask 2-3 years from now, and it wouldn't be that big of a deal.
True, and I think people would remember her for sure, so they'd still be super excited. Yeah. Well, you know what? Good for her. I'm stoked for her.
Yeah, and so I'm very happy for her. But I'm gonna break this up here, and I'm gonna lead here for a hot sec.
Woo!
Because I recall, because this was yesterday, and I'm more than one day old, so I can remember when they announced Jen. You were pretty much I looked over, I saw your face, and I was like, ooh, you know, she's not too excited about that. And you were pretty much that meme, which I actually sent you, I think, last night. Just like, my disappointment's immeasurable and my day is ruined. And so you told me you'd tell me. And she didn't tell me. So what's going on there?
You know, it was funny because when they announced Jen, I was just silent and just heavy.
I know you're disappointed.
And, you know, I like Jen and I don't want to feel disappointed. But I was really trying to think, why do I feel this way? Why was this my first reaction? And I think it was because I was thinking, oh, it's going to be Lexi. It's going to be Maria. It's going to be Daisy, right? And I was thinking since day one, oh, it's going to be Daisy. I want it to be Daisy. I can't wait for it to be Daisy. I hope Daisy doesn't win so that she's the Bachelorette, right?
Yeah.
And I've been telling myself this since day one. So when they asked Daisy to be the Bachelorette and she said no, I think I was kind of like devastated from that. And, you know, I understand why Daisy isn't ready. That totally makes sense. However, then I thought, okay, would I want to see Maria as Bachelorette? No, I want to see Maria on Paradise 1,000%. I want to see Maria be funny and silly and hanging out on the beach and partying and like causing drama.
And
that's exactly
her
what I
boobs
want.
Out, yeah.
And I'm sure her boobs will be out. And I'm sure there will be a black box on both parts of her body constantly. And that's what I want from Maria for sure. Do I want an entire season of Maria? No, to be honest, which I know is controversial, but I would love to see Maria on Paradise. I would love to watch Maria fall in love in that type of atmosphere. I also think that people are more likely to fall in love in Paradise than on Bachelor, Bachelorette, because Bachelor and Bachelorette, they spend maybe, let's say, an hour and a half together before they get engaged, right? Total, if we were to time everything, versus Bachelor in Paradise, they've been spending every day, all day together for months. You know, like those relationships are more likely to be successful.
And it's all about the power dynamic.
Right? Yeah.
Because like, you know, Joey at this point now, he's always been in control. Mm-hmm. And he's a little bit different because he's always been afraid. But, you know, at the end of the day, he could dump her at any moment.
Right.
On Bachelor in Paradise, yeah, sometimes you can dump them, but sometimes you can't. Mm-hmm. But, you know, that's real life.
Right, 1,000%.
You can dump somebody, but they can dump you too.
Well, and other people come into the picture, and maybe it's, you know, you can date another person, and you have to have an exclusive conversation. And, you know, Bachelor in Paradise is very like real life scenarios where it's like, are we dating each other? Are we dating other people? Are we exclusive? Like, what does that look like? And to see Maria in that environment, I mean, there's no way she's not on Paradise.
She'll be the belle of the ball.
And I am so excited to see that. And she's going to be... Guys are going to be after her left and right, for sure.
You know who's also confirmed to be on Bachelor in Paradise then?
Who?
Sydney.
Okay. Well, true.
There's no way, right?
There's absolutely.
Actually, maybe not Sydney at this point. It seems like Maria was able to handle it, which is also extremely shocking because normally they don't.
Right.
It would be Jess then.
Oh, I think they're all three going to be on. But I also think that there's been
Medina.
times where you can see people fight on the season and then they go on Bachelor in Paradise and they're like buddy, right? And you're
they
like,
know each other maybe.
Oh, okay, yeah. And I'm sure in an environment where it's like you don't know anybody except for that one person, then maybe they're like, well, even though I don't like this person, I know this person, and so I'm kind of like drawn to them.
It's a different game too. They may be going after different men, so who cares?
Right. Yeah.
So
they might be kind of like more of an even playing field. And you know, and then Lexi, I think, you know, Lexi would be an interesting bachelorette as well, in my opinion. But, you know, I also understand her timeline, and I feel like I can understand whether they asked her or not, you know, her kind of saying, hey, like, I'm kind of on a different journey that's not reality TV related.
Yeah, I think she's probably better just doing the normal thing.
Yeah. So I think it was shocking that it was Jen because Jen was not on my radar at all. And I know she was on your radar.
I told you last week.
Because you said that. And I thought, Jen, that's like coming out of left field. Like, there's no way, right? Like, it's going to be Daisy, Maria, or Lexi for sure. Or like even Rachel or even Jess. I mean, I was thinking
Jess?
Every person
come on.
Before Jen.
You were picking Jess. Come
right?
on.
Right? I mean, maybe this is just a hot take. Maybe this is just me. So to me, Jen completely came out of left field. And I was like,
Are you sure you're
shocked.
listening to anything I'm saying and these things? It's like, Jen, it's not like I said that last week.
You absolutely said that.
Now we can play back the tape.
And I was shocked. And so when they announced her, I was shocked and confused and sad because it wasn't Daisy.
I mean, we knew
And,
at that point it wasn't going to be her.
Right. And even confused that it wasn't Maria, even though I didn't want it to be Maria. I already had a reaction to if it was Maria, right? But I just had no reaction prepared for Jen. And I sat there in complete silence for the rest of the night.
You did.
And really for the rest of the day, honestly, today.
Oh, come on.
I mean,
you were that bothered by it.
I don't want to say I was bothered. I was just very shocked. And the other thing that I thought about is Jen talked about, her family and how her family is very, like she grew up in like a stricter household.
Yep.
And she is, very hard on herself and has very high expectations of herself. And I think being the Bachelorette is a very big role. And I think that she's an amazing person. That being said, I hope that she doesn't put too much pressure on herself. And that's kind of a concern for me looking at her as a human, right? She has vocally said she puts a lot of pressure on herself. This is a situation where the world is putting a lot of pressure on herself. It's putting a lot of pressure on her, I should say. And I think that that's a tough position for someone who I'm just going to, I don't want to say that she has said these words because she hasn't, but someone who has a personality to be a perfectionist, which if I assumed that I met Jen, I would assume she would be a perfectionist. Someone who has that personality and then being thrown into a role of the Bachelorette where there's positive and negative feedback at all times. That would be a mentally hard situation for a perfectionist to be in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I hear you. My biggest concern is that she's going to throw out finishing being a PA and just be a social media influencer. It's like, no, Jen, you're doing something that's so great. just finish doing that. Mm-hmm. But I think that might be a thing in the past at this point.
Yeah. I think she's going to focus a lot on what she thinks America wants to see versus her own true self.
I can see that. I mean, I don't know. I don't have like that much of a read on her, really, honestly. Mm-hmm. I mean,
that's more coming from a perfectionist personality. Like, I'm not saying I'm a perfectionist. I'm just saying I've been friends with perfectionists. Mm-hmm. And I feel like they're very focused on what other people think. So they're very focused on like how they're perceived instead of being like organic. And, I hope that she can be like authentic to herself and, and just kind of like show us who she is as a person.
I mean, I can see that. At least how she was speaking and talking last night, it kind of didn't really feel like the other person that she showed. It felt a little bit more like scripted and staged. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it didn't really seem like, I'm on a surfboard and Joey, don't drown me.
Right.
So.
Yeah. But I think Jen is absolutely beautiful. And I think that she is entertaining and I think she is fun to watch and I think she is going to be good to get to know. And so I'm excited to get to know her. I think it was just shocking. Mm-hmm. I just didn't see it coming at all.
Sure. Yeah, as you didn't listen to me. But that's fine. I don't say anything that's real. So, I mean, if I look back at what I've been saying this whole season, I think like a few of the things I said were right, but a lot of those things I'm like, wow, it sounds so stupid now that I said that.
But I had a hot take saying, really week 1, week 2, Kelsey A.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, I don't know. There's something about this girl. And, here we
You're
are.
right.
But also you said Jen and I disregarded it. And then when she was chosen, I was shocked. And you were like, we saw this coming. Come on now.
I guess there was no we. I saw it coming. I thought you did.
No we.
But Yeah, so I mean, I guess at this point we're gonna have to, kind of close up the season a little bit. And, I just want to hear what's your opinions on this season versus the other ones you've seen.
That's true. Well, I want to hear your opinion of Jen being the Bachelorette.
Oh, okay. You're gonna throw me under the bus. Honestly, I'm like, I knew, the moment Daisy said no, I was just like, okay, it's her. I just like didn't. I mean, and hopefully the Maria fans don't come at me, but as they seem kind of angry. But
listen, we all want to see Maria on Paradise, right?
Oh, I like Maria just. I was on Team Maria day one, but
that's true. Yeah, before me. So mad respect for that.
But I don't feel like I'm one of the Maria fans. I was a little angry, to put it lightly. But I don't know. I just feel like the type of person she is, I don't think it would work really that well with being the Bachelorette. I feel like she's probably going to make her decisions very quickly and would cut it down from like 20 dudes to like 5 very quickly and just be like, I like this guy. I'm like, that'd be that. Yeah. So I don't really think that's the right thing for her. But Jen, I mean, I don't know. I mean, like, she seems nice and like, I think she's attractive, but like, I don't know. Don't really have a whole ton to say.
Well, and I love that they're getting diverse with their Bachelor and Bachelorettes. And, they announced that she was the first Asian American Bachelorette. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's so true. I didn't even think about that. But that like makes me so happy for the franchise. That the franchise is like really evolving and really showing that they're evolving. And, I think Jen is the perfect person to be in that role.
Yeah, would you rather had Rachel over her?
And I was going to ask you about Rachel. And, I think it's interesting because after seeing Rachel's reaction to everything during the finale, it made me feel more emotionally connected to her. And I would love to see Rachel again. I think that Rachel does have a more serious personality, so I think it would be interesting to see her on Paradise. That being said, I want to see her again, so I want her to be on Paradise, even though I don't know if Paradise is like her bread and butter atmosphere. However, I do think that on Paradise, there's always like serious relationships right out the gate, right? Like day one, it's like this person, they're together and they're together the whole season. I can see that happening with Rachel, and Rachel being on Paradise and us being able to get to know her and see her, which I would love to see. But that being said, kind of being in a serious relationship right off the bat and us as an audience saying, okay, yeah, we know they're solid, but, also appreciating the love story that would come from that.
Yeah, and that's fine if there's like 5 other people or 5 other couples that are, a disaster or whatever on Paradise. Like, it's nice to have the people that you can look at and like, okay, well, they're fine. And like, it's nice to see something. It's not a disaster every once in a while. But yeah, I think Jen's probably a better choice in this case because, especially the first half of the season, you just kind of have to be like fun and like, right. And I feel like Jen's more that person. And like the second half of the season, you can be more serious, but I think the first half of the season would just kind of drag from a TV perspective. And, that's no shade at Rachel or anything. It just like, I think some people are better suited to what they're looking for as a TV show rather than like, as like an actual, good personality. I don't really think that means anything other way.
No, I think Jen will be fun to watch. And, I agree. I think I'd rather watch Jen in the Bachelorette role and Rachel in a Paradise role.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Maybe Rachel's just like, nah, I'm done. But
right, maybe.
But I don't think so.
I think she's got Paradise in her for sure.
Yeah, I hope she goes on with Maria. That'd be kind of cute.
Yeah,
I'm sure they're buddies.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we can get back into what are your final thoughts on this?
Final thoughts. So yeah, Joey's a Bachelor. Love, one of my faves. I mean, so Ben Higgins, I think prior to the season was, one of my favorite Bachelors. And I think Joey is definitely up there. I mean, I just feel like he was just very genuine and he took it very seriously. And I think we've seen some seasons where you can kind of tell like this guy is like, oh, I'm super hot, or oh, I'm the Bachelor, and I'm good, like I'm, and kind of have like this confidence to them, that turns into cockiness real quick, right? So I think as a whole, it was awesome to to watch this season. I think Kelsey, I see them lasting. I mean, I see them having a solid relationship. I see them having serious conversations. Like, and I think that's exciting for the Bachelor franchise to, to have a couple that does last from the Bachelor Bachelorette season. So overall, I mean, I feel like the season was good. I think the drama that they had was a good level. So I'm a fan. Yeah.
Yeah. I would probably put this as my favorite season I've seen. And maybe it's because we're doing this podcast now, because it was always going to be Andy's season, which is The Bachelorette, but whatever. They're effectively the same
Oh,
thing.
Andy's season was fantastic. Absolutely.
Yeah, it was really good.
So good.
With Nick.
So good, yeah.
And Caitlin's, and just the whole Nick saga. But I think I connected more with this one because, and I felt the same way kind of, with Claire / Tayshia's season of like, I saw some of the, and some of these people, I'm just like, this seems like a real person.
Yeah.
Not just like, these aren't people I'm ever going to meet in my real life or anything. That was probably the best part of Claire and Tayshia's season. It was just like, oh, I'm like a software engineer. I'm like, I could see this guy working with me. Okay. Or, whatever. Or you had what's his face from Harvard. I can't remember his name, but this was my favorite season. I feel like it was most relatable to me, and just like, his insecurities and just like how he treated people just seemed like much more genuine, and like how maybe a real person would treat people rather than somebody who's just like, I'm so hot, I can do whatever I want. Right. And all these women or, men are here for me. So I'm just going to force them to do a bunch of weird stuff. And like, that was nice too. They kept a bunch of like the really like cringe dates that I hate. And I'm telling you, if those show up again, I will complain about it. Like, I'm just waiting. I'm itching for it. I'm waiting for the strip dodgeball or what. I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for it because I hate them. It's so stupid. Yeah.
Well, I think if we look at like Zach's season, we look at Clayton's season,
spoiler alert, haven't seen either of those.
Okay.
So.
Well, if we look at the past couple seasons, Zach's season, I mean, Zach, I think was hard for the audience to connect to. I think there was just some wall that I felt getting to know him. And so, I could like kind of be involved in his love story, but it was challenging, I felt like. And then we look at Clayton's season, and I think Clayton, again, hot take, like kind of had some growing up and some maturing to do. And I think watching a bachelor who, needs to be secure with themselves is hard because you want to root for them and you want them to fall in love, but you can tell that they aren't in a place where they're in love with themselves, right? And it kind of puts you in a difficult situation to root for someone who you can tell is kind of like struggling with their own insecurities, right? And like, it's fine if people are struggling with insecurities, but it was good to watch Joey. And, I think he had insecurities, but I think his insecurities were very, related to like love and related to evolving versus maturing, if that makes sense.
I think it has a lot to do with like, I think a lot of it goes back to that very brief conversation. I can't remember who it was with, but that woman that he dated for some amount of time in Hawaii. And I think that was like the turning point for him. And if he had not had that, I think he would have been more kind of like these guys you mentioned before. Yeah.
And I think you could tell he was taking this seriously. And I think with like Zach and Clayton, just the past, the most recent seasons, I don't want to say they weren't taking it seriously, but I think they, were very overwhelmed by the situation. And I mean, rightfully so. I feel like the average person would. And it seemed from an audience perspective that they struggled more with the experience as a whole, being the Bachelor compared to Joey, in my opinion.
And so like, I will always loved the Nick saga just because like it was fun to watch over like 2 years or whatever it was. But this was emotionally connected wise, I feel like this is probably one I like the most. And then, you know, the other one was Claire and Tayshia's season, probably just mainly because of like the guys, because they weren't like 23 years old. And they seemed like a little bit more aware of that they like exist.
Right.
So
yeah, no, that was a good season as well. Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at with that. But, you know, I think we're closing out here a little bit, and, you know, it's the end of this show. And so that kind of puts it to be the end of our show. You want to talk a little bit about that and maybe what our plans are for the future?
Yeah, so we love all Bachelor franchise. So Golden Bachelorette, Golden Bachelor, Bachelor in Paradise, Bachelor, Bachelorette. I mean, the list goes on and on at this point. My gosh. So we are fans of it all. So we will be for sure back to recap all of the Bachelor franchise.
I guess it's a 5 now.
Episodes. So, I mean, for right now, even though The Bachelor is coming to an end, once that next season of whatever they decide to release next comes out, we would love to come back and recap with you guys and do this all over again and again.
Yeah, and we'll be back, and we'll have a special little interlude or so. What I told Kristen when I was thinking about that, when that kind of comes up, I mean, I looked beforehand, and maybe I'm just dumb, but I didn't see what their next show was.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see. But
we do appreciate all of you guys joining us and being loyal listeners. And we hope to see you on the next Bachelor franchise episode, whatever show they decide to release next.
And that's what I was gonna say, because like I was commenting with Kristen, it was just like, I can't believe like anybody watches this. So it was just kind of shocking to see that like I don't know who these people are and they're watching this. So
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's where we'll wrap up, but you'll be hearing from us whenever the next thing comes along. And I'm not going to pull out one of the roses today because they're already lovely in this face. But, you know, I hope you'll accept our final rose and you'll come back for more whenever that may be.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much.
Bye.